Hi friends! What if I told you simple foods like chocolate, blueberries, walnuts, and even tomatoes can protect your skin, your collagen, and your DNA from sun damage? Real food, not serums, not expensive creams. But sadly, most of what's sold today is so processed that it's lost all of its power. So unless you know what to look for, you're eating stuff that pretty much does nothing. And still, no one's talking about this. Instead, we're inundated with ads to buy this product and that product, or this injection and that injection. Why? Because real solutions don't make money. So before it's too late, let's break down the foods that actually protect your skin and how you can find the right ones. The average person in the US is spending almost $2,000 on beauty products a year, yet skin cancer and wrinkling is rising. When it comes to rubbing stuff on my skin, I spend less than $3 on soap that lasts probably a month. Botox use is at an all-time high, and so is sunscreen use. But people are spending less time in the sun. We blame DNA damage on the sun, but in reality, so many other things are causing DNA damage that accelerates premature aging in your skin. And a lot of these things are found in your home. There are over 18 million cancer survivors in the US alone. Chemotherapy used to treat cancer or skin conditions like 5-fluorouracil or meclorethamine can damage DNA as a part of their mechanism. Thiazide diuretics like hydrochlorothiazide or chlorothalidone used to treat hypertension act as photosynthesizers to absorb UV light and generate reactive oxygen species in the skin, which can cause DNA damage and potentially promote skin cancer. Long-term use and high-dose use of hydrochlorothiazide is associated with a significantly increased risk of squamous cell carcinoma, especially on sun-exposed skin. There is also an increased risk of basal cell carcinoma. Now remember, this is not medical advice. If you're on any of these medications, don't panic, talk to your medical provider, and discuss with them risks and benefits. But it is not just stuff that you take that's prescription. It could also be smoking marijuana. And people who smoke have an increased cancer risk too. Inhaling burnt chemicals are just bad, whether that's from marijuana or cigarette smoke, wildfires, cooking exhaust, barbecue grills, candles, you name it. Don't burn stuff. Most people only think about the outside of their skin, but you have a lot of skin inside that lines your respiratory tree and your gut. And those mucosal membranes are actually more susceptible to damage than your outside skin. Damage first causes inflammation, then that leads to thinning of collagen, and eventually it makes your collagen unable to repair. My friend told me she was going to get a bug zapper to hang on her porch to ward off mosquitoes. Bug zappers are UV lamps, like black lamps, that directly emit UVA and sometimes UVB rays, which are well documented to cause DNA mutations. What are your light bulbs made out of? Do you have any of those compact fluorescent lamps? Well, they are a source of low-level UV radiation, especially UVB and UVC. Ever notice chips on the outside coating of that light bulb? That is a layer of phosphorus, which, if damaged or thinned, will emit more UV radiation. I used to study under compact fluorescent bulbs because no one ever told me I was supposed to be over a foot away. I don't remember a public health campaign warning people of the risk, yet cities were giving boxes of free compact fluorescent light bulbs. My mom got a whole case, and of course she shared it with me. And do you know how many years and how many hours I studied with those light bulbs as my desk lamp? I did it throughout college, medical school, and residency. Sheesh! It's just so stressful to think about that. I think I need some chocolate. Chocolate just always makes everything feel better. And my mom, she used to supply me with lots of chocolate. She would have boxes of C's candy tucked away for those special occasions. But on a daily basis, our house was filled like Costco. Cheap milk chocolate everywhere. I had lots of Kisses and Minis. Cheap chocolate is also cheap on UV protecting flavonols. And you get what you pay for, folks. Look at your ingredients. When you buy cheap milk chocolate in the US, you're getting milk particulates, milk fat, milk sugar. You better off just drinking a whole glass of milk. Where's the cacao? Good quality dark chocolate have beneficial flavonols that are photoprotective for your skin against UV rays. They are also strong antioxidants and anti-inflammatory tools to help reverse some of that damage that you get from inside and outside of your home. This study tested 30 people and randomized them into eating high flavanol chocolate or low flavanol chocolate. Apparently, this is not something that you can taste the difference between flavanol-rich or flavanol-poor chocolates. It's all about the processing when it comes to preserving flavanol in your chocolate. It's like dishwashing. And when someone is sick at home, the dirty dishes need to be treated with a heat cycle that completely will decontaminate those germs. Or you can boil them in water over the stovetop to disinfect all those little particles, right? Well, when it comes to chocolate, certain processes like Dutch will kill all the flavanols in the chocolate. And it's even worse for chocolate sold in the US. Our milk chocolate barely has any real chocolate or cacao. However, if you buy Swiss milk chocolate, well, their government requires that real cacao be placed into the milk chocolate, and it's a minimum of 25%. It actually can range up to 40%. So their milk chocolate is closer to our dark chocolate levels. Their dark chocolate is even better. It's greater than 40%. But when it comes to eating chocolate, it's important that you don't do what I did as a kid and just wolf down 5 candy bars straight. I don't think my brain was after the chocolate. I was actually after the taste of sugar and fat. And that's the problem with eating processed foods. It doesn't require any chewing. And when you don't chew, your brain doesn't register it as eating. Therefore, people overeat. Have you noticed that the foods you are gravitating to are getting softer and saltier and fatter and sweeter? And they require very little effort to eat, right? Look at ice cream. Look at yogurt. They're marketing food so that we swallow it whole like reptiles. Snakes can eat 15% of their body weight in just one sitting. But I bet you've never seen an obese snake. That's because they can go for months, some up to 2 years without eating, as they can slow down their metabolism to very low rates. Hummingbirds, on the other hand, they have to eat half their body weight in sugar every day. But they aren't obese either. And why is that? That's because they get a massive workout every day. In 1 second, their wings flutter 80 times, their tongues lick 13 times, and their heart beats 20 times. So if you want to eat more calories, you're going to have to get a workout like a hummingbird. Otherwise, over time, you'll just gain weight, especially when the food doesn't require any chewing like chocolate. Hence, you're going to have to limit the amount of chocolate you eat and control how fast you swallow that chocolate. Let's face it, it's a soft, ultra-processed food. Real chocolate needs to be savored and allowed to melt in your mouth to appreciate the depth and flavor. For skin health, it actually doesn't take much. This study had participants eat 20 grams of chocolate, which is like 2 squares. They eat that every day for 12 weeks. The high flavanol chocolate matters. Low flavanol chocolates had no benefit, but the high flavanol chocolate was UV protective. And you get an added bonus in your blood flow when you eat high flavanol chocolate. Blood flow means better skin healing. And people with severe peripheral arterial disease can have persistent pain in their legs that can become, over time, skin ulcers. However, 40 grams of chocolate used in this study reduced pain, which hopefully will translate into preventing bad arterial ulcers. Unfortunately, chocolate is a dirty food, unregulated, and full of heavy metals. The plant absorbs a lot of cadmium in the soil. Then there are many underdeveloped countries that dry their cacao beans outdoors, uncovered in air pollution near factories. And that air pollution settlement with lead contaminates the beans. So where are you going to go find high flavanol chocolate with low heavy metals? It's not easy. You can't necessarily rely on a well-known brand name. Consumer Labs tested a bunch of chocolate bars, including those that had 90% cacao. Lindt Excellent Supreme Dark 90% Cacao, made in 2019, had 3.7 grams of flavanol, whereas Ghirardelli Intense Dark 72% Cacao Dark Chocolate, made in 2022, had 12.7 flavanols per gram. They also tested for heavy metals. The product with the most cadmium in their test was Alter Eco Deep Dark Blackout 85, which had 0.35 micrograms per gram. Lindt Excellent Supreme Dark Chocolate had 0.15 micrograms per gram, but it did have less than 1 microgram of lead. Ghirardelli Intense Dark Chocolate 72% had 0.11 micrograms per gram, and its lead content was less than 0.3 micrograms. That was actually one of their top picks. Keep in mind, every batch of chocolate is different. Organic, unfortunately, can still be highly contaminated with heavy metals. If you think about it, heavy metals are literally from the earth. Now, I personally go for cocoa powder because I don't really care for the added sugar and milk fat in milk chocolate bars. I do admit chocolate bars are much tastier, but I try my best and make it sweet with whole dates, and then I add creaminess by adding beans. I know it's not exactly the same texture or flavor, but I'm filling my body up with healthier, antioxidant, nutrient-dense foods that protect my DNA. And I'm trying to leave out the junky components, which is really hard to do in this food landscape. Now, you probably don't realize that your skin is a window to your immune health. A weak immune system leaves you vulnerable to lots of toxins that promote premature aging in your skin. And of course, everyone's afraid of skin cancer. But there are so many other skin conditions that are highly influenced by your diet. Acne is one of them. Now, acne isn't just a result of hormones. Of course, unopposed androgens don't help. That's one excellent way to get more acne. So if you drink a lot of non-fat milk, you are drinking unopposed androgens in that dairy milk. Whole milk actually has estrogen in the fat. But when you remove the fat to make non-fat or reduced fat milk, then you will remove the estrogen. So if you want to reduce your acne, you may want to stop your dairy. Unfortunately, even non-dairy dark chocolate, though, can also cause acne outbreaks in certain people. It appears to be in the cocoa itself. But cocoa, even if you get some acne, is not as damaging as alcohol. 300,000 Americans found out that excessive drinking is associated with a higher rate of sunburn. Anybody ever tell you that before you bought your alcohol or drank that beer at those barbecues and beach parties? Alcohol consumption decreases protection of your skin within 8 minutes of drinking it. And that's because it drops down your antioxidants dramatically. Hence, those blended drinks with some fruit juice is actually a little bit healthier. Now, when you're outside, have you ever touched a leaf on a tree that's been in the basking sun? It's not hot, is it? But if you touch a sidewalk with your bare foot under that burning sun, you'll burn your feet. And why is that? Well, plants have molecules that reflect solar radiation. And as long as it gets water and nutrients, it can protect itself from the intense heat and radiation of sunlight. Isn't that incredible? How the plant itself concentrates molecules that repair DNA, reduce oxidative stress, and deflects UV radiation. These are everything that we need to repair our DNA. And this is why I drink a green leaf every day, green tea. Green tea contains catechins called EGCG that neutralizes reactive oxygen species, reducing UV inflammation to help prevent DNA strand breaks. Tea is the second most consumed beverage in the world behind water. Now, green tea is from a specific plant called Camellia sinensis. It is a polyphenol-rich food concentrated in catechins. People have studied topical applications of green tea, which has been shown to be UV protective. Now, the US is not a green tea drinking country, but Japan loves their green tea. Their people drink green tea throughout the day, and they believe that those who drink over 10 Japanese cups of green tea daily, which is equivalent to 5 of our cups, they have a benefit when it comes to cancer protection, as it's been shown that it delays the onset of cancer. If you think about it, free radicals, they cause oxidative damage to DNA. And within 40 minutes of drinking green tea, you actually get a spike of antioxidant power in your bloodstream that can also boost DNA repair enzymes called OGG1. Hence, I like to drink my green tea before I go out in the sun. Now, which brands of green tea are good? First of all, matcha is best. This isn't matcha, but I usually will drink matcha to maximize the nutrients because I'm literally ingesting green leaves. Having said that, when you eat leaves, sometimes it can be contaminated with heavy metals and arsenic. And if you don't eat the leaves, then, usually you put this in water and you throw away the first hot water rinse. The heavy metals will be trapped inside the leaf. So the goal is if you want to drink matcha, then you got to find a high flavanol and low contaminant green tea. You also don't want to drink tea extremely hot. Drinking hot foods or burning yourself can increase esophageal and gastric cancer. This is really true with anything that is super hot. So drink your tea at a reasonable temperature. You can even drink it cold to maximize its benefit. Now, when it comes to lead, you know the tea leaves actually remove lead from your water. That's also why green tea may have lead in them, because they absorb lead. And the amount of lead removal, though, depends on how long that tea has been in the water. So 5 minutes really only removes 15% of lead. First of all, you shouldn't have any lead in your water. If you do, we don't want another Flint, Michigan crisis. You got to go get a filter. So if you're concerned about lead in the water, go just get a good water filter. I put one of my favorites in the show notes below. So here are the top 3 ECGC and total catechin-rich green teas as tested by consumer labs. Trader Joe's organic green tea is pretty good. Rishi green tea comes in second, and Twinings of London green tea comes in third.
Hi friends. I am so thrilled that you want to take charge of your health and take charge of your food. Now, I know nutrition can be complex, but it doesn't have to be. And I'm here to support you in this lifelong journey. So if you point your camera app to this QR code, it'll take you to a link for a free handout that I created just for you. And if you like it, if you want to see other handouts, please go to the link in my show notes, and then you can leave me your feedback on what I could do to help you in your journey. Okay, back to the video now.
So if you are used to drinking tea from tea bags, just know that these bags may bind to ECGC, so it's best to pour it out and just drink around the tea leaves. Eventually, those leaves will sink. Green tea is green because of chlorophyll, which is found in many dark green leafy vegetables like spinach to kale to broccoli. Now, the middle of the chlorophyll, that's a magnesium molecule that is essential for over 300 enzymatic reactions in your body, including repair mechanisms for your DNA. People realize that DNA mutations can lead to a variety of cancers. But did you know that only 5% of cancers are inherited? The other DNA mutations are acquired over a person's lifetime. If you smoke cigarettes, you'll get 1 DNA mutation for every 15 cigarettes you smoke. So sure, smoking is a bad thing, but the number 1 cause of DNA mutations is your diet. And the best thing that we can all do is add foods high in magnesium, such as leafy greens, legumes, beans, and whole grains. Now, when it comes to the sun and UV radiation, if you just take a moment and think about it, the sun has been around before you and I. Most people are spending less time outdoors, and yet we have more people getting skin cancer and younger people getting cancer. And we're not just talking about skin cancer on the outside surface of the skin. We're talking about skin cancer inside your body. Many young people are getting cancer in their GI tract. And why is that? Because collectively we're destroying our metabolic and immune health through eating empty calories that are devoid of these protective nutrients. There's not a day on public or private radio stations in which I don't hear about a new bakery or dessert shop that's not praised by the announcer. Health and wellness, it should not be the sole responsibility of those in the medical system. And right before the free commercial for that new local sweet shop, they report somebody's medical struggles or highlight some new cancer therapy. Am I the only one who sees the irony? Ultra-processed food has become the new tobacco. It's giving us an astronomical rate of chronic inflammation that parallels not only the rise of skin cancer, but breast, prostate, lung cancers, diabetes, fatty liver, heart disease, kidney failure, and autoimmune diseases. And when your body is in a disease state, you have magnesium regulation problems. Ultimately, this lowers your body's magnesium, which then puts you at elevated risk of having more DNA mutations. RFK Jr. says that we are one of the sickest nations, yet we spend the most amount of money per capita for healthcare. The thing is, we're leading the world in this lopsided health outcome, and many nations are following us, becoming overfed and undernourished. This is weakening everybody's immune system, which is your number 1 defense against any cancer. Australia and New Zealand are considered the world's skin cancer capital, and a prominent professor actually working in New Zealand, Margaret Weiser, she spent her whole career researching cancer and micronutrients. And in 2018, she said, you'd be better off eating your product than rubbing it on, in reference to cosmetic products and skin cancer. Now, to be clear, I'm not against sunscreen. I do believe it has a protective role, but its role is very limited, as you can't exactly have your sunscreen protect your internal organs. And of course, there are other very effective ways to protect yourself from getting sunburned. Number 1 is to check the UV index, which is a measurement of how much UV rays the sun is giving off in your area at a given day and time. An UV index level of 3 or above means you need to seek protection. The higher the UV index, the more damage you will get to your skin. Now, I try to walk in the early morning before 10 a.m. or late afternoon after 4 p.m. And this is because that is when the UV index will be at its lowest in any given day. When the UV index is below 3, that's when you don't need to wear any sun protection. And even in Australia, they don't recommend 24/7 sun protection. They realize the sun is very helpful. It gives you rays that can stimulate your body to be healthier, such as vitamin D. So checking the UV index is like checking the weather app every day. And you can download free apps on your phone and check it right now before you go out. Avoid those days in which your UV index is over 8. And of course, the darker your skin tone, the higher your tolerance for your skin will be to any given UV index compared to someone who is fairer. That just means it'll take more to burn your skin. When you eat dark leafy greens, you're actually getting a whole host of antioxidants that help with DNA repair. Broccoli, especially broccoli sprouts, contain sulforaphane, which boosts detoxification enzymes and enhances the skin's ability to neutralize free radicals and carcinogens to repair DNA. Now, spinach is rich in lutein, zeaxanthin, folate, and vitamin C, all involved in DNA repair and protection. Do you know how many supplements you would have to eat to make up for all these different kinds of vegetables? These plants have thousands of micronutrients. There's just no way to bottle that up in a vegetable pill to make up for all of its benefits. But I know vegetables are hard to eat. Diversifying it actually makes it easier because then you have different textures and flavors. I try to eat vegetables with every meal and every snack because I admit it's even hard for me to eat my veggies. And I realize I'm just like my kids. I need to hide them. So whenever I make beans, I try to stuff and puree some greens. And it's easy to do that because when you mush beans, it's just one big giant bowl of mush. It's a high fiber food which hides some of the bitterness of the green. But the trick is to strip the stem because that could be kind of hard and then people can feel that texture. Another favorite way for me to get my veggies is to drink it in a smoothie. I basically blend a bunch of kale and berries because it's high in fiber and it's fragrant. And I drink it with my favorite milk, which is soy. Initially, I started doing this for my family, my kids especially, because they weren't getting enough greens. And then I realized they were eating more greens than me. So I decided to join them and drink a smoothie too. I found a hand blender that I use multiple times a day to make my mush beans and my smoothies. It's probably the best kitchen tool that I ever invested in because it helps me hide so many good ingredients and it allows me to make individual servings. Now, lots of people have asked if they should be eating their greens raw, juiced, or cooked. And the answer is, it depends. The nutrient content of leafy greens changes notably depending on how you prepare them. Cooking, it can reduce certain heat-sensitive and water-soluble nutrients. For example, vitamin C and folate, which is vitamin B9, it can decrease by 30 to 60% during cooking, especially when your greens are boiled or microwaved with water. Now, chlorophyll, which gives the greens that vibrant green color, it also has antioxidant benefits, which is partially degraded by heat, causing the color to dull as it converts to pheophytin. And that's why it's important to take it out when it's at the most brilliant green. Similarly, glucosinolates, or sulfur-containing compounds with the potential of anti-cancer effects found in cruciferous greens like kales and collard greens, they decline with prolonged cooking, but are better preserved with light steaming. Now, the trick to cooking these vegetables is to chop them up first, let them sit around for 30 minutes to an hour before you cook them. This is because chopping it up releases an enzyme called myrosinase, which is actually denatured when you cook it. Myrosinase is needed to convert the glucosinolates into sulforaphane, which is the active molecule that protects your cells. But if you don't have time to wait, you can always add a pinch of mustard seed powder after you're done cooking, right before you eat them. Now, some polyphenols are also sensitive to heat, and you may reduce those polyphenols when you cook them. On the other hand, cooking can enhance the bioavailability of other nutrients. For example, beta-carotene, a precursor to vitamin A, as well as lutein and zeaxanthin, important for your eye and skin health. They become more accessible to the body when leafy greens are cooked, particularly when they are consumed with a little bit of healthy fats, such as olive oil, or you can just eat some nuts. Cooking also reduces oxalates, compounds that bind minerals like calcium and iron. Thus, it improves absorption of other essential nutrients. The oxalates will leach into the water, so if you want to reduce your oxalate content, then you should throw that water away. Minerals like magnesium and potassium, they remain fairly stable during cooking, and some may leach out into the water. So the method of cooking plays a crucial role in nutrient retention. Baking in high heat causes the greatest nutrient loss. Boiling will lose vitamins that will dissolve in water. Steaming is one of the best ways to preserve your nutrients. A lot of people like to saute with oil, and that again can enhance absorption of fat-soluble vitamins, but the heat will destroy sensitive compounds like vitamin C. Now, some people microwave. That can also cause nutrient loss depending on the duration and how much water that you're using. Now, in contrast, eating greens raw preserves sensitive nutrients like vitamin C, folate, and chlorophyll, but you may limit your body's ability to access certain minerals and carotenoids. Juicing is advantageous when you have a kid who refuses to chew their food or a parent who can't chew through that fibers. Lots of kids actually become adults, and the adults, they don't want to chew their veggies. So I say just drink it. But certain vegetables just shouldn't be juice, such as spinach. Not only because of lots of food poisoning episodes related to spinach, but it's also because of the high oxalate content that can theoretically cause kidney stones if you overeat spinach. Other vegetables that are high in oxalates include beet greens and Swiss chard, especially red Swiss chard. But if you already have a kidney stone and you're not eating greens, obviously greens aren't your problem. In fact, studies have shown that if you eat more plants, you can actually reduce your risk of kidney stones. But of course, eat a diversity of plants. Don't super concentrate any one food. Remember, your body needs different nutrients to grow and repair. We've talked about many antioxidants that are found in a variety of plants. And some of these vitamins are very unique for certain plants. Take, for example, walnuts. They're rich in omega-3s and vitamin E. Both can help to reduce oxidative damage to your skin. Omega-3s are necessary for every cell in the body because of your cell membrane. And as a society, we just don't eat enough omega-3s. That's because very few plants have omega-3s. And then the body actually has to convert alpha-linoleic acid, which some plants have more of, like walnuts, into two omega-3s, DHA and EPA. This conversion is actually very inefficient, and it's made even worse because of the presence of seed oils that are high in omega-6 fats. And when you eat an excess amount of omega-6 fats, you're actually competing against yourself, or you're competing against your omega-3s into being converted into DHA and EPA. And when you eat these oils, number one, you're getting a lot of calories from these ultra-processed ingredients that contribute to weight gain and reduces your body's ability, again, to make the omega-3 fats. So I'm a big proponent of lowering your oils because I want people to increase their omega-3 levels. Omega-3s are well known for their anti-inflammatory properties. They help reduce the production of inflammatory cytokines and prostaglandins that contribute to skin conditions like acne, psoriasis, and eczema. In chronic skin inflammation, EPA helps restore the balance to immune signaling. It leads to less redness, swelling, and irritation. Omega-3s can improve lipid composition of the skin barrier, which helps retain moisture and reduce transepidermal water loss. This, of course, leads to softer, more hydrated skin and less flaking and dryness, especially in harsh or dry environments. Now, EPA has been shown to help protect skin cells from UV-induced damage, including DNA strand breaks, oxidative stress, and photoaging. So when you eat an adequate amount of omega-3s, it increases the skin's resistance to sunburning, and it may reduce inflammation and improve your immune system to protect you against UV exposure. And by reducing inflammation, you can help preserve collagen integrity. So having enough omega-3s may help to ward off those fine line wrinkles and sagging. So they improve skin elasticity and firmness over time. Now, all omega-3s, especially DHA, are incorporated into phospholipid bilayers of all your cells, particularly in your brain, retina, and immune cells. They influence membrane fluidity, permeability, and receptor function. This affects countless downstream reactions. Omega-3s are substrates for enzymes like cyclooxygenase and lipooxygenase that produce anti-inflammatory compounds. It's involved in prostaglandin, thromboxane, and leukotriene synthesis. EPA and DHA, they're also involved in resolvins, protectants, and mycelineins, specialized pro-resolving mediators that regulate immune resolution. And these molecules are involved in hundreds of immune and inflammatory signaling reactions. Omega-3s act as ligands for nuclear receptors such as PPARs, or peroxisome proliferator activated receptors. They affect the transcription of genes involved in lipid metabolism, inflammation, and cell proliferation, including skin, liver, and immune tissues. Their gene modulating roles impacts dozens and hundreds of pathways directly and indirectly. DHA is essential for synaptic plasticity, neurotransmitter release, and myelination. Omega-3 influences function of dopamine, serotonin, and glutamate systems. They also affect neuroinflammatory and oxidative stress pathways, key in neurodegenerative disease prevention. And in case you didn't know, your nerve cells are critical to healthy skin. People who lose signaling to their skin, like when they get neuropathy, often have visible changes in their skin. Neuropathy damages autonomic nervous system that controls your sweat glands. It leads to reduced or absent sweating in the affected areas of your skin. And as a result, the skin becomes dry, flaky, and prone to cracking, especially on the soles of your feet or palms. Now, cracks open the door to infections. Now, with long-term neuropathy, especially from diabetes, the skin may appear shiny, thin, or almost translucent. And this is due to poor blood flow, loss of underlying tissue tone, and reduced stimulation from damaged nerves. Neuropathy impairs the skin's ability to regulate blood vessel dilation and constriction. Now, this causes cool or warm skin at inappropriate times. Redness, pallor, or purplish discoloration, and poor skin tone and reduced responsiveness to heat and cold also results from neuropathy. Reduced blood supply and nerve input slows the skin's regenerative capacity. Even small cuts or pressure spots may heal poorly. This increases the risk of ulcers or infections, chronic wounds, especially in the feet. And although not a visible skin change, loss of protective sensation means a person may not feel pressure, injury, or temperature extremes, leading to unnoticed damage and repetitive trauma. And this all makes your skin more vulnerable to calluses, blisters, or pressure sores. Damaged nerves, it impairs communication between the nervous system and fibroblasts, which are the skin cells responsible for producing collagen. And without proper neural input and growth factor signaling, fibroblast activity decreases, leading to lower collagen production and slower skin regeneration. Neuropathy, especially in conditions like diabetes, is associated with oxidative stress and chronic low-grade inflammation. These factors, they upregulate enzymes called matrix metalloproteinases, which break down collagen and extracellular matrix proteins. And as a result, existing collagen degrades faster than it can be replaced. Neuropathy also compromises circulation, which limits oxygen and nutrient delivery to skin tissue. Fibroblasts, it requires oxygen and vitamin C to synthesize healthy collagen, so poor circulation means impaired collagen assembly and delayed tissue repair. And because collagen is essential to wound repair, neuropathy-related collagen disruption contributes to slower healing, weaker scar tissue, and a higher risk of chronic wounds and ulcers, especially, again, in the feet. So it's important to check your feet every day. This is also why it's important to get enough vitamin C throughout the day. And if you want to learn more about that, watch the next video.